is going on, all you wonderful A-plusers out there? It is I, Stuart, here once again to give you guys another Kamen Rider Saber review. This time I'm going to be talking about episode 19. The beginning of this episode starts off on a little bit of a weird note, because Yuri is seemingly up to something as he sneaks over to Mei's phone in order to steal it. I was kind of wondering what it was that he was kind of up to here, like why it was that he was trying to get a hold of her phone, especially because the whole scene kind of plays out for like a long time, so I'm just kind of like, what could this guy possibly be up to? What is it that he's trying to do with her phone that he doesn't want Touma or Mei to find out about? We'll get back into that in just a moment. But first, let's talk about what happens later in that scene, because Yuri reveals that the ultimate power can still be obtained if all the books and the blades from the transcripts are formed together. This is why corruption and manipulation within the sort of logos can be a huge threat. Meanwhile, the other riders continue to sit in a circle while repeating basically the same thing they've been repeating in the past couple of episodes.
Should we do something? We should do something! Should we do something? Yes, you should do something, you boring idiots!
While the good guys continue to debate about doing something about the bad guys continue to infect more citizens with the curse to turn them into monsters of the week. We then meet Shingo, a kid who's really into sculpting models, and of course a huge fan of Touma's designs in his bookstore. Unfortunately, he becomes our next victim as Desta ends up turning him into the monster of the week known as the Barefoot King. Much like the kid he's taken over, this week's monster also loves sculpting, except his sculptures aren't just small model replicas, they're actually full-size walls made out of cars.
You can't stay mad at a guy with this kind of talent.
Dad, you can and you have to!
We cut back to Touma's bookstore where we learn something new about Luna. Apparently she's sort of a bridge between worlds, kind of like, I guess, the Avatar in a way. Oh, as for Yuri stealing Mei's phone, well, it turns out it was really just for another fish out of water gag. Yeah, I don't know. Don't get me wrong, I really do like some of the fish out of water gags that they've been doing with him, but this one kind of dragged and it made me think like there was something big going on with him that was going to be revealed at the end of the episode or something like that, but it really just turned out he was just being kind of an idiot again, which, I don't know, maybe that was the joke, maybe that was what the writers were intending, but for me it just kind of ended up making me more confused than anything else. We cut back to the sort of logos where Tetsuo decides that the only way he'll know for sure if Touma is telling the truth is to clash swords with him. Apparently Tetsuo is kind of like Cassandra Cain in that he can read people by fighting them. This isn't a bad concept and it definitely makes sense for his character, it's just something I kind of wish was established previously in the series. Meanwhile, Touma is attempting to save Shingo, but almost everything that could possibly go wrong goes wrong. First of all, Disaster joins the fight. Second, Yuri is being distracted by a comic book. And third, Tetsuo arrives, but much like Rintaro, he doesn't believe Touma when Touma tries to convince him that the monster of the week is actually a human. When Yuri is finally ready to join the fight, he's approached by Tetsuo, who demands to know Yuri's true intentions. Apparently, Yuri knows exactly what he means because they immediately start clashing swords. I wonder if this ability to kind of read people by fighting them is just a common trait that a lot of writers have, or more specifically, a trait that a lot of experienced Kamen writers have. Tetsuo then goes after the monster of the week as he continues to ignore Touma's warnings. Before delivering the final strike, Tetsuo hears Shingo's voice cry out for help, causing him to hesitate before he's about to deliver his final strike. This of course gives the villains all the time they need to escape. With a lot less doubt of Touma's intentions, Tetsuo and Touma clash swords, and Tetsuo says I couldn't hear anything reverberating coming from Touma's blade after they're done fighting. I'm gonna be totally honest, I have no idea what that saying means. Reverberating is usually talking about echoes, so like, you know, when someone says something was reverberating, they usually mean something like their voice was reverberating throughout the cave or something like that. So to say that he didn't hear anything reverberating from Touma's sword when they were fighting, I have no idea if this was like a translation error or if it's just a saying that makes more sense in Japan than it does in America, but what I'm hoping it means is that he didn't sense anything menacing coming from Touma's blade, as in like when he was battling Touma was never delivering any like lethal blows towards Tetsuo, and maybe that's what Tetsuo was referring to. Either way, it does seem like Tetsuo is a little more trusting of Touma at the end of this episode. He does seem to finally understand that whatever Touma is really going after, he knows that it's for sure not power, that power has nothing to do with it. Touma's main goal is to protect people, and I think that's the main thing that Tetsuo finally realizes. But overall, I did think this episode was pretty good in the end. I really did like that this week's victim was someone who really connected with Touma in just like 30 seconds of screen time. We could already see them becoming really good friends, which also kind of made it sad for us as an audience to see him go so fast, because he does seem like a genuinely nice kid. The other thing is that while I'm personally not a guy who likes to sculpt models himself, I do have a very big appreciation for the art. There's a reason that I prefer giant monster movies that use costumes and actual sets instead of giant monster movies that use completely CG everything. Don't get me wrong, I love the trailer for King Kong vs. Godzilla, the new one coming out, and I'm sure it's going to be an amazing movie, but at the same time, there's a certain craft and creativity that goes into modeling when it comes to these type of special effects. It's why I love the Megazord battles in Super Sentai and Power Rangers, and I love watching old school monster movies where the monsters were actually people in suits destroying an actual like model city, as opposed to more modern monster movies where they tend to be CG monsters destroying CG buildings with like real people kind of pasted in there somewhere. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not that one's better than the other, I just prefer models as opposed to computer graphics. But guys, at the end of the day, my thoughts on this episode, I did think it was a really good episode, but of course, those are just my A+ opinions. We here at A+ Opinions always want to know what you guys think, so definitely let me know if you guys enjoyed this episode as well in the comments below. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and remember that we also do have a Patreon, so if you do want to help support our channel in other ways, you can donate to our Patreon, which will be in the link below as well. But guys, just remember above all to keep it A+.